Hi, everybody. I hope your day is going well. And just before I start, I think we need a few more questions. We have a seminar coming up uh, on the 6th. And remember, the reason why we need more questions is to find out maybe where we are, where you are in terms of your relationship with understanding you, and anything else that you might think might be helpful in that in this process. Um, This is a question from Lee Martin. Uh, of late, living in general or in many cases seems to be making me feel nervous or stressed. Is this experience largely personality reaction to growth? Are my feelings uh, or experience mainly personality or species oriented or both? It's often more challenging than it's often more challenging than usual to remain centered. Do I just try to let it be, observe, use the tools? He's, you're really basically, Lee, you're answering your own question. And maybe what I can do is read some of the stuff that I've noted. I thought maybe I would ask that question last Thursday and decided to do it this Thursday. Um, there's a very interesting thing that begins to happen as you're beginning to open. All the systems that are open to some degree, especially the root gonad solar plexus system, becomes stretched because you're looking at more awareness. And of course, awareness on these levels are always related to, even though we would like to think they're always related to higher states for all of us, but they're related to how you've coordinated a relationship within the personality with the energy that can operate through those very strong base structures that are necessary in relationship to handling uh, ourselves and our survival. And so, therefore, in a kind of way, yes, everyone who is actually growing internally becomes more sensitized, more aware of what's already there. This makes us very vulnerable. And add on to that circumstances in life and how sometimes those pressures are very difficult to deal with in themselves, uh, then that extension or opening of the solar plexus to give you more juice to handle it is actually, as a boundary, stretched as well. So it gives you a, a difference between a boundary for anyone who isn't, let's say, under stress as much, to a boundary that is that level extended. In other words, your boundaries under stress are extended beyond what you're used to. Therefore, your day to day sensitivities are extended. And remember, they're extended because more of that flow or love operates through so that you can begin to be aware of how things are in you and do your very best to not to judge anything as it is, but at the same time, we're human beings and we are nervous about or anxious about these things. Um, and it happens to all of us, uh, not only one or two or 10 or 15. It, it's a consistent thing that occurs in the process of growth. Um, In some, of course, they will honestly grab onto what they will call success based on our current determinations about spiritual success, whatever they may be. Could be just related to a belief. Um, oh, you're among the thousands or millions who believe this way, therefore you're okay, you're growing spiritually, and it's the only way to do things. And this is a natural inclination in our world. But if you step into a movement within yourself that relates to actual broadening so that you can begin to perceive, this is the kind of subliminal aspect, you begin to perceive that flow operating through you, and that in itself, since it's new, can cause a state of vulnerability. It's long been known wherever internal growth has occurred that there has been internal stress, and they used to call it at one point soul stress. And that depends on your belief system, of course, and how you would think of that. Well, some people would think of it this way: they're really heavily under stress, so they must be really grown because their soul has impacted upon them and made them hurt and feel bad. That isn't the nature of that higher aspect at all. But nonetheless, it's how we uh, cultivate ideas to explain something to make us feel more comfortable. And in fact, there is an aspect of opening which allows us as individuals, through our nervous system and our ability to perceive externally and internally, we recognize that there's something else going on in there, but we're not sure what it is. Normally, if we have tremendous amount of stress in our lives, which some do, then we blame it on something. And it may be true. More stress, difficult to handle. Absolutely true. So in our relationship with engaging and trying to solve a problem with a few words, we often come up with ideas that tend towards comforting ourselves. If you've read anything about other people's idea about initiation, it varies from a dream about being helpful to an actual physical occurrence that is like you've been hit by lightning, because everything that you're perceiving is so different than what is normal in our world. Well, and there's movement and opening from 0 to what we would call 100 miles an hour, and it may not even be 100 miles an hour in relationship to the possibilities or potential that we are capable of handling. But nonetheless, still in the verbiage that relates to comforting ourselves the best we can. It's important to comfort ourselves, and necessary. Vital, I would almost say. And we do that every day. It's also important to see how things are and realize what's going on and not take the weight of the world on your shoulders. That also is very difficult not to do, depending on the context of your relationship with life. Someone who is in a complicated scenario related to their job or their family or any other thing that they're working with has a lot of inner stress. And this is very uncomfortable. Learning how to find a place within yourself, I think you call it centering, where you can feel comforted and generally better little by little, is very valuable. But remember, even that gets disturbed. There's a funny thing that can happen in that. You will feel as if what you did before is not quite as comfortable and comforting as, let's say, as it used to be. That's why as you do grow, more energy is able to come into you, because you need that more energy, that increased energy or flow to come in, so you can see that softening down is very important. And of course, you attempt to soften down, and it never feels perfectly soft for a while because you're still engaging with trying to handle the stress that you're under. After a bit, it starts to get a little bit softer, and you can't figure out why it's softer. But it is softer because you've been attempting to soften down. I don't know whether this will be very helpful or not, but I wrote some stuff down here when I was looking at this question, and still am, and still will be, because this happens all the time to all of us. All of us have these responses and feelings that can be and are triggered by personal life stresses or nervousness about about growth or the unknown. Also about the known. As the mind, emotional mind, makes room for higher state consciousness links, the personal defenses can go on alert because it has not experienced this kind of thing before. The quiet, which can occur after a cycle of growing, is substantial. In other words, it makes you, it's as if there's none of your anchors are comfortable, and is sensed in advance by the personality. It can perceive, anticipate a movement towards a different level of growing, no matter how minute or how great that would be. And it prepares itself in advance. Actually, the best preparation that it likes is a strong defense. So there's a pull away action or an anxiety or stress action that occurs under these circumstances. Now, that is not to say that every time you're anxious, it's only because you're growing. There's enough around to be anxious about. So that may be in your venue or area of engagement with life, or it might be, generally speaking, true, as Lee mentions, a relationship with the species being uncomfortable. And there's enough there at this current moment to have it so, at least to some degree. Using energy or the tools are a help to calm the emotions. They really do help. And remember the pump as well as the balancing and grounding. Doing it ever so slowly tends to soften the system. Meditation is very important. You will find that sometimes under this kind of a stress, you won't want to meditate. You'll be too busy trying to find something else to do, because meditation will help. And you want to remain the same. That's how personalities are. No no exceptions, everyone does the same thing. And it's not a criticism, it's just a reality. We tend to want to be, if we feel in charge, we tend to want to be in charge. If we tend to be very frightened, we get used to that. We tend to want to be angry, we get used to that. We tend to want to be milder, we get used to that. As we change, you have to remember that old aspects, the old things that you did before, have a tendency to rush back in because they want your your credence. It's a constructed form, like we are. I am the son of so and so. You are the son of so and so. That's a credible construction. You create your personality in lieu of a need that you have to be able to function. Once you've given credit to how you act out or engage with life, then there is a certain amount of protection that goes to maintaining that way of functioning. There's no negation in that. That's a reality relative to how you need to be able to successfully be okay in life, whatever that means to you. And there's so many different ways of looking at it. Then the next thing is you start shifting and growing, and then you realize, strangely enough, that some of the old traditional ways, because your awareness has increased a little bit, and you've learned how to watch what's going on, that in itself is an act of relationship. You perceive the relationship you have with yourself, and you want to maintain that naturally for the good of protecting that which has helped you before. It's a wonderful suit you don't want to lose, or a good shirt or a sweater or a pair of shoes or I don't care what you bring out, or a good friend you don't want to lose. But you can't control the friend. It, in fact, wants to be in a relationship with you as it was before because it has been that way. So growing is slow, but it can give you a very vulnerable sense. Okay, go slow. If tired, rest more. That's really important. It will make you tired when you're actually growing. As most of you know, over your life, stress will make you tired as well. But this is stressful in a different way. Make sure the physical is healthy. If you find yourself reacting an awful lot and then assessing that wherever you're reacting was the right way to do things, know for sure that there are other options to the reactions that you've expressed. If old reactions are increased by that flow, and they are, the increase is so you can see them better, so you can begin to say, okay, I don't have to agree with this fully in the way I did this. This will help you open more because there is a kind, I don't know another word, kind of a trust that occurs between that flow and you. If the flow increases, you are trusted to deal with it nice and easily. Best way you can handle it. I use a life map on it the best I can. I ask for help. I'm not above that at all. I don't know what if you are, but any of you, but it is very valuable. It truly helps. Oh, from that universal flow. Call it whatever you want. Your version of whatever you think that might be. Your set of words, your sequencings. Use them. If you one day find something that is more comforting to you, use that. Infinity, in a loving manner, is not going to be offended by the groupings of words you use, but realize it's a grouping of words that comfort you. Not everyone in the universe needs to use the same groupings. All belief systems that have a natural inclination to be engaged with higher states. This is hard for some to understand or even want to allow, but nonetheless, if it's okay with you, then it's okay with you. And realize also at a higher state, that higher state only wants you to be as able as it. That is totally strange for us. It's an act of love. It will boost you, try to help you, elevate you, so that you can understand deeper, have a broader meaning to what you already have in relationship to that flow. Let's see now. I think also, I did say meditation. It's a really important thing. You might notice that life will take you away from it really rather easily. Just as easily as having a drink of water. That you might, if that's an interlude, something that interrupts you from moving towards meditation, that'll be a tool to get you away that the personality will actually use. It will use anything. And it will use forgetfulness. It will use also stress. And there is a fear that if you meditate too much, and too much is not what you're looking for. You're looking for a balance in life so that that zone of comforting kind of and growing intersect with each other. And you're always looking for a balance. And it's a cyclical form. So you'll grow through a cycle, and that is the beginning of another cycle, and another cycle, and another cycle. It's important to understand this because there's such an inclination on many people's parts to make decisions and statements about how they've grown so much. Therefore, they're more important than other people. This is the nature of how we do things on these levels, but not the nature of growing in relationship to higher states. I wish everybody well with this. Lee, there was another question by, excuse me, just a minute, Dominic Clark. This is slightly different, but it's along the same line. Basically, his form of stress is, well, I'll let you. There's two questions here, of which he sent me, and I think both of them are really very similar. Hi, Ron. I've just been watching the Thursday night stream, and you answered this question. Any more words gratefully received? It is a question that I've asked a lot, and it really bothers me the way I respond to life in this particular area. Here we go. I don't seem to be able to be very easy when I attempt to soften, when I want to soften. I can do it, but I bump up against some resistance to not I'm sorry, I don't really get this. Some resistance to not defend my position. Oh, yeah, he wants to defend his position, or to interpret other people's motivations or judgments and beliefs. I'm full of doubt, but maybe the doubt has served me in some way, but it is a difficult thing to change. Sorry about sending you all this last minute. No worries. And thanks again. The other question is, I still struggle with giving up old ideas when working with other people with different views than myself. This is a different kind of stress, but it's stress nonetheless. I want to be able to allow them the space to understand the spiritual path in their own way. This is a theory, but it's also, I know Don, and he's sincere about that. And I do see it as energetic and important, but I really don't know what to do when they try to get me to see their way. I feel very defensive and trapped. I don't feel I'm being honest unless I constantly reaffirm my position, even though I don't have a fixed position, or so I think. I may be more fixed and unconscious than I am aware of. How can I let go of the past, unhelpful ways of being and commit to my spiritual growth? You can see he's already committed to his spiritual growth, but he's attempting to get past this idea of protecting his own way of thinking. This is very difficult to do. So here's an answer that I tried to come up with. And as again, you don't have to agree with this one, but nonetheless, here's an answer. Just listen. It's difficult for the personality to be with itself alone. We are not built that way. We act that way. Inside is very different than what our responses are. And we notice that others wish people to agree with them. It makes them feel secure in the attempt as well as agreement. So if a person sees that you agree with them, it makes them feel more comfortable with the idea that they come up with. And that's what they are looking for. It's natural. Everyone does the same thing. If you watch yourself engaging with others, you'll notice that you would much prefer if they agree with you than if they don't. Well, pretty normal stuff. So that is normal. Okay, it's difficult to remember that the many need different ways of thinking to be comforted. Pieces of information in many ways, most beliefs make some sense in their own way. It's our nature to adapt and to adopt beliefs and make sense of them. And they become a part of what we think has to be true. Most interesting thing in that is that in some of, I hope you don't mind me saying this, some of my experiences with people that I've met over the world, they come from different belief systems. But the issue there is that they engage with a state beyond belief. while still allowing themselves to engage with the belief that they have known and related to during their life. Yet when they meet others that are relating to different beliefs, they don't negate that belief. They look for a deeper level of awareness that relates to a state beyond belief. We often call that higher state. But of course, if you have a belief that you think is the highest state, then someone is going to automatically say that their belief is the higher state. So you must agree with me. This is an experiential thing. This hasn't got anything to do with belief. It has to do with energy flow. And energy flows on all levels. So this is complicated. And we as personalities are complicated because we have beliefs. And it's the nature of the personality, anyone's, to have them. Because it cushions how we engage with life, that thing we call personality. And that is a mixture of physical intensity, emotional dispositional reflex, expression, aligned with belief, and how we think we have considered this situation versus that, or haven't, and just know that this is one way, the only way that anybody should believe. In an energy flowing being, belief is less valuable, but is also considered valuable, relating to the whole zone of comfort that the individual has. And beings from a higher state will go to a belief or be involved with the belief from birth and try to help everyone who has that belief to go beyond belief. This is very difficult to make sense of without that experience. Yet, that's our potential. That's in the process of development. This will occur and will not dictate that you stop a belief if it makes you more comfortable. You will engage with it, be more comforted with it, and know that others are doing the same thing in other people's belief. Yet, they are in alignment with another state beyond that belief. In our world, it's always, this is more right than that. This is the right way to do things, and that. Don't talk about things like this. Talk about things like that. This is the nature of a coordinated, intense flow of constructed force in particular directions. And that egg, one could say, is gives us a lot of comfort. That way of seeing the world. Okay. I went on and said, it's difficult to remember that the many need different ways of thinking to be comforted. Pieces of information in many or most beliefs make some sense, relative sense. It's our nature to adapt and adopt beliefs and make sense of them, slowly experiencing inner development or energy and learning affects us each differently in our making sense worlds. We never know how that energy or words affect others. Try to be constructive. We are trained to be judgmental, but don't give up. You will move in a direction to be, through experience, more constructive and more aware, and begin to understand deeper and deeper. Be patient with yourself and kind and respectful of not only yourself, but others the best you can. The best you can is a really important expression from my point of view. The best you can does not mean perfect. The best you can does not mean you're wrong or you're right. The best you can is all you can do, and it doesn't mean that it's more important or valuable than anyone else's best you can. It means others are growing how they can. You, in spite of you, are growing how you can. In other words, in spite of how you determine whether you're right, wrong, good, or bad with respect to others. It's interesting that we can actually learn to understand broader and deeper without negating others, but seeing others and knowing for sure, as you are unable to develop any faster than you can, so are others unable to develop any faster than they can. So if they have an idea and you have an idea and they don't agree, listen to their idea. See if there's anything there that might be helpful to you. It's really interesting. Over the years, in some of my general journeys, I've noticed a few people who do some things to grow that, well, I either think they can't help me, or I might be too lazy to do what they think might be helpful, or I haven't got the flexibility to do what they believe might be helpful. It doesn't mean that that doesn't help them. But if you look at it a little bit closer, you can see how your, I was going to say generosity, pseudo generosity to yourself will stop you from, let's say, thinking that the other person is, the system the other person is using is very able. Don't jump. There are some things that anyone, everywhere, anywhere could use because they can, and it might be helpful to them. It might be a mixture of 15 or 20 different things that might be helpful to them, where one thing will be negated, another will be negated, others will be negated, and they're building a method of how to negate things rather than how to consider if it would be possible that something that they're doing might help you in your growth as well. There are so many different ways. But the purpose is to engage with higher states so that higher states can help you in your journey to become more sensitive, more aware of how we function in reality and how that energy is expressed from deeper levels through us for purposes that relate to helping others. This is not perfect, but it's helpful. Here's another question by Carol Thompson, who is from the UK. And this is one of the questions that were at the UK seminar. And let's see how we can close this. Oh, yeah. While away with Betty Valensu and Debbie, they went a few weeks ago to Roslin, Scotland. We had an encounter with a guy who had been a monk in India. This encounter was under some coincidental circumstances, and it was brief. Some words he said resonated, and now I will try to formulate a question. Some of us were talking of energies in the glen around Roslin. If any of you have ever been in Roslin, there's a kind of a church there, and then as you walk down the lane, you go down the back into a glen, and the energy is quite different, very strong. Anyway, and also there's a building there, a home where perhaps some of the old Knights Templars of old, some of their people who had, let's say, over the generations had been involved with the Templars, might be living. This is a Templar church, as you might take from that. So some of us were talking of energies in the glen around Roslin. We have some photos which have stuff in them we can't explain. The conversation went on, the accumulation of which is, he said, all this stuff is mainly distraction and we need to go inside without. In other words, it's a pretty typical response of the East. All the phenomena that we engage with is basically, it deters you, but in the West, it comforts you to know stuff or even to experience stuff. We haven't yet learned how to be quiet. And of course, this chap hasn't learned to be quiet either. And that's quite okay, because that's what we do. We have personalities and we engage. No, she says, well, no shock there. You've been saying this all the time, and I have known you. So here I am, and I have been listening to you and others, of course, saying the same thing for a long time. My question is, what is all this avoidance about? In the past 2 difficult years, I have worked so hard at distraction and being busy. I'm unsure if I fear the next bit or if there is a clinging on to a numbing out. I mentioned that this numbing out is a general relationship with folks who are not only growing spiritually, but just being normal. Equally, no, there will be a lot of questions, so no worry there if it does or does not fit. Well, there is a sense of love within that meets trust issues head on. No one does well with deep awareness. So we define growth by personality attributes and important personal successes, spiritual and material. This is normal for us. This is what I've written. We fear growing into the unknown within and without, but slow development over lifetimes help. If too quick, we fear every tomorrow. No real template. There is no real template. Then we say there is, but then we say there is interchange. In other words, there's no perfect way to gain access to inner growth. But if you do meditate and learn that your engagement with meditation and increased relationship with perceiving how you are, these two basic things, and slowly, not necessarily agreeing with everything that you see, but not disagreeing totally either. These two things have been kicking around historically, roughly, I would say probably way beyond 500 BC, where Buddha and folks like Plato try to explain it, and Socrates, and getting to know yourself, that kind of thing that comes out of Greek philosophy. And the Indian and Buddhist background of it many years before that, including them, Taoists as well, uh, relating to seeing how you are so you can make a space in there for a different view to occur within you that doesn't relate to you being the individual that is perfect. And the focus on things around you being important are important for you, to find a comfort zone and then slowly release that comfort zone little by little. We don't do that well. Yeah, it's kind of the nature of the personality being comforted by itself. We need to know that that's okay. And we need to know that over time we begin to notice that our selectivity in relationship to how we think and how we believe things should be is just a part of the truth, not the whole truth. So-called truth there that I'm talking about is the truth of an action that relates to growth. But use those things the best you can until you can see them, and then see them slightly differently than what you believe they have to be to make you valuable in your own skin. Remember, the reason for you being valuable is so that you can be comforted or be comfortable within you. And that is important. So as you grow, you will see aspects of your personality even more. Please try and not judge them. See them as just something that you can shift a little bit so that you can understand you better and construct different meanings to things. That means an opening. This is very difficult, very easy to talk about it. Oh my heavens. And people have talked about this, as this gentleman has, forever. All you have to do, read a couple of books from the East or the West in philosophy or in self-help books, for that example, and you'll be seeing the same thing. But what he's really saying here, the real crux of the deeper meaning is, look, it is normal and natural for you to do what you do. It's the nature of how you've constructed your system. Same with me, same with everyone else. Doing it slightly different, little by little, you begin to understand that you can hesitate and see something and slowly address yourself gently and respectfully, understanding that you could do it slightly differently. Every now and then you'll do it the same way. Even if you change something and it's fantastic in your view, you'll come back to the same thing. So you can see it and be okay. And then let it go. You don't have to idealize it. The misunderstanding that is very strong in spiritual circles is the idealization of activity that indicate somehow that you're a metaphysically able being. In other words, you can do something that other people can't. It holds you in a position that will not allow you to let go of that thing or those things so you can grow deeper because you make it a part of your personality's value. And others have to accept that. And it makes them feel lesser than. And you are then held in a position because you can't let go because it's idealized. And this is normal here on these planes, not abnormal, normal. He's saying, as so many really able people have said, it's okay if you do that, but if you do that, you're going to hold that, and it's going to hold you from growing deeper. An easier way to say it is, oh, they're just things. Don't pay any attention to them. Well, it's difficult if you live in a world that relates to acquisition and name plating. This is natural in our world. You're held by being a really good baseball player, a real good hockey player. Jeez. Very spiritual. Well, it is. It's the use of energy for a purpose that relates to doing what you do. It's more metaphysical, of course, but it's surrendering. Okay. So as I ended up saying, this seems to occur on all levels, mental, emotional, and physical, and we deal with it alone internally. It's what you do. It's what all of us do. If you see yourself elevating a little bit, do your best to put a stop to it. Yeah, but Ron, no one will know how able you are. Good. Sometimes, unless you're a teacher, that's annoying. Sometimes then you can maybe be helpful. If nobody knows you're able, energy can operate through you relative to your capacity to handle it softly, respectfully. And it can do its bidding in and through you rather than you doing your bidding and then elevating that bidding. It's how we are. It's something that we will not learn well yet. However, from a positive angle, a little bit of learning is more well. Not very good English, but nonetheless, be patient. Do the best you can. We seek norms. If spiritual, therefore, this or that is what to expect. But inside deep, we know all this is just a distraction. But what we tell ourselves and define things as is the distraction. And I think in a kind of a way, if we're conscious of what we do, we see it and perhaps even hope that the next time this kind of a situation goes up or that, we'll do a little bit better than we could this time. But the temptation is to be recognized because that is the nature of how we are brought up as such and such, or such and such, or such and such, or such and such. Higher we go, or even the lower we go. There are many levels of this kind of thing. Be it as it is. Just know it best you can and do what you can. Be respectful. And know that you are literally doing your best. You have to reassure yourself of that and remind yourself. Even if it doesn't look that much to other people, it is a reality relative to you. Please take care of yourself, everybody. And we're just going to meditate now for about an hour, usually 50 minutes to an hour. Bye for now. Don't forget those questions. Thanks. just begin to do the balancing and grounding on your own. And have a good evening. Take care.